Generally, I find this slide far more fascinating than my students find it. But let's just take a look at this thing, right? What this does is it shows where all the energy comes from, and this is where it goes to, right? So if you look at nuclear power, for example, nuclear power in general is just used for the electric power sector. We generate electricity with it. If you look at hydro again is also used to generate electrical power. But look, some small amount of hydroelectricity, that's what that little line is actually used for industrial applications. So this means somebody is still using hydropower to do something like, I don't know, grind up wheat or something like that, like the old millstone or something like that. This is natural gas, right? A lot of that's used for electric power. A lot of it's used to heat our houses, right? And then industrial applications, right? Coal. It's funny, I don't see a coal down here to the transportation sector, but back in the 1800s, right, we would use a lot of coal for like choo-choo trains, right? Most of it's used for electric power. I don't know what the industrial applications are. And then if you look at petroleum, and this, by the way, is totally shifted. This is 2002, right? We don't import nearly as much petroleum as we used to, but notice that most petroleum is used for transportation. Some people heat their houses with petroleum. Some petroleum is used for non-fuel. I think that would be plastics and stuff, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, obviously, I could sense your boredom. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. All right. Okay, so this is the bad news here. And here's the bad news, right? Everything from here all the way to here, these are all fossil fuels. So our energy consumption in 2015 is heavily, heavily fossil fuel, right? We're consuming oil, natural gas, we're consuming coal, and ideally we would want to make this almost all of it renewable stuff and stuff that doesn't release carbon. So this stuff is fairly carbon neutral, let's just say, right? This stuff, that's all it does is release carbon. Okay, some of it releases a lot of carbon. Okay, and this is bad news, right? That leads to release of carbon dioxide, which leads to the greenhouse effect, which leads to climate change. So this is bad, right? And then I thought this was interesting too. This is not just energy consumption. This is U.S. sources of electricity, so electrical generation. Notice that our electrical generation is just a little bit nuclear, about 20% roughly. 80% of it comes from other things. And a lot of that stuff is carbon releasing, right? Check out France. France is almost totally flipped. Almost 80% of their energy electrical energy comes from nuclear power. And about 20% of it comes from that. So if you look at the part in France, this is the part that's generating carbon, right? And there's actually an argument, I'm kind of on the fence as far as nuclear energy goes, but it doesn't release carbon. And if you could come up with a way to generate nuclear power and you could deal with the waste problem and you could deal with safety issues, there's a lot of uranium, a lot of nuclear fuel. And if you could generate electricity safely with nuclear power, that would go a long way to reducing carbon emissions.